Let's say you and your friends run a small club. To make things easy, instead of constantly trading cash, you create your own club credits. For every real dollar someone puts into a pot, they get 1 club credit. Now, what do you do with the pot of real money? You could just let it sit there. Or you could put it into something really safe that earns a tiny bit of interest, like a government savings bond. The credits are still perfectly backed, 1-to-1, but now the pot of money is also doing something else. It is helping fund the government. Now imagine that club is not a few friends, but millions of people all over the world. And the club credits are not just for fun. They are digital dollars. Most people have heard of the Bretton Woods Agreement. That 1944 meeting in a quiet hotel put the US dollar at the center of the world's economy for the next 80 years. It feels like a chapter in a history book. But what if that story is not over? What if it is just being rewritten with new technology? Right now, a new version of that system is being built. Not in a grand hotel, but in the quiet halls of Congress, through financial legislation that sounds incredibly boring. You will see things like the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act. It is technical. It is dense. It is not. This is not just another crypto bill. This is a blueprint for the next generation of the dollar. A new world monetary order is being quietly assembled. And this time the anchor is not gold. It is something far more modern. It is US government debt. This is the story of how a massive financial power shift is happening right under our noses, almost without anyone noticing. To understand what's happening today, you first have to understand what happened back in 1944. The world was in chaos. World War II had shattered global economies. The old systems had failed. The world's leaders needed a new anchor to provide stability. The United States, emerging as the world's dominant economic and military power, had a solution. The United States dollar would become the world's reserve currency. Crucially, the dollar itself was convertible to gold at a fixed rate, $35 an ounce. Every other major currency was then pegged to the dollar. This was the Bretton Woods system. For the rest of the world, holding dollars became a necessity for international trade and for stabilizing their own currencies. This created a constant, structural demand for United States dollars. America could print money that the rest of the world needed to function. A French finance minister would later call this America's exorbitant privilege. Now, that specific system officially ended in 1971, when President Nixon severed the dollar's link to gold. But its legacy never went away. The plumbing of the global financial system was built on the dollar. Oil, commodities, and international loans were, and still are, predominantly priced in dollars. There just was not an easy alternative. But today, that legacy system is under incredible strain. The United States has accumulated a staggering amount of national debt. Geopolitical tensions are rising, and major powers are actively looking for ways to de-dollarize, to escape their reliance on a currency that can be used as a political weapon through sanctions. For years, the question has been, what comes next? If the world moves away from the dollar, what replaces it? But what if the answer is not to replace the dollar, but to upgrade it for the 21st century? This brings us to the seemingly dull world of financial regulation. Over the past couple of years, lawmakers in Washington, D.C. have been working on a federal framework for a specific type of digital currency, payment stablecoins. On the surface, bills like the proposed Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act are about consumer protection and preventing financial crime. They aim to bring rules to the Wild West of crypto, and they do. But if you read the fine print, you find a mechanism that is far more ambitious. Here's the core of what's being proposed. If a company wants to issue a dollar-pegged stablecoin in the United States, it must follow strict rules. The most important rule concerns its reserves. For every $1 stablecoin a company issues, it must hold $1 worth of high-quality liquid assets. Now, what are these assets? The legislative drafts are very specific. They are primarily cash, deposits in insured banks, and short-term United States government debt, also known as treasury bills. This is the key. That single detail changes everything. It means a stablecoin issuer isn't just creating a private currency, it's essentially acting as a portal. When you buy a dollar stablecoin, the issuer is legally obligated to take your money and park it in these specific, safe, United States-linked assets. So, what does this have to do with global power? Everything. The stablecoin market is already huge, with a total value of well over $150 billion, a figure that, for perspective, already exceeds the official currency reserves of a country like Canada. A significant portion of this activity happens outside the United States, in places where people are desperate for a stable store of value. Some analysts project the market could swell to over $2 trillion in the coming years. Now, connect the dots. Imagine you are a business owner in Argentina, a student in Nigeria, or an investor in Vietnam. Your local currency is unstable. You want to protect your savings, so you buy $1,000 worth of a United States regulated dollar stablecoin. What happens next is the quiet genius of this proposed system. The company that issued your stablecoin now has your $1,000. Under the new legal framework, it has to place those funds into its reserves. A large portion of those reserves, by law, will likely end up in United States government debt. So you, a citizen of another country trying to escape your own volatile economy, have just indirectly bought a United States Treasury bill. You just loaned money to the United States government. Multiply this by millions of users across the globe. Every time someone, anywhere in the world, chooses to hold their wealth in a dollar stablecoin, they would be creating automatic structural demand for United States government debt. It is a feature hardwired into the plumbing of the system. This is what some analysts have started calling Bretton Woods 3.0. It is not an official term, but an interpretation of what is unfolding. In the original Bretton Woods, the anchor asset that gave the dollar its power was gold. In this proposed Bretton Woods 3.0, the anchor asset is U.S. government debt. Instead of foreign central banks holding physical gold, you have a global population of individuals and businesses holding digital tokens backed by U.S. treasuries. The result is the same. The dollar remains at the center of the universe, and the United States gets to help finance its spending with the world's savings. But this new system is arguably even more powerful. Under the old system, a foreign government could decide to sell its dollars and demand gold, putting pressure on the US. In this new system, the demand is not coming from a few dozen central banks. It is coming from millions of individual users. It is a distributed, grassroots foundation for dollar dominance. This system also exports US regulation globally. Any stablecoin issuer who wants access to the world's biggest market would have to comply with US rules on anti-money laundering and sanctions. It embeds American financial oversight into the very code of digital money. So why isn't this front-page news? Because it's wrapped in layers of technical jargon and presented as a simple step towards regulatory clarity. Supporters argue this is a win for everyone. It provides clear rules for the crypto industry, protects consumers, and reinforces the dollar's global role. However, critics raise serious concerns. They point out that this framework allows private, for-profit companies to effectively issue a form of money, a role traditionally reserved for the state. Banks, in particular, worry about a massive flight of deposits into stablecoins, which could reduce their ability to lend. And there's another crucial detail. Many of the proposed laws would explicitly prohibit issuers from paying interest directly on these payment stablecoins. The revenue generated from the treasury bills in the reserve goes to the issuer, not to the person holding the token. Proponents say this is necessary to keep stablecoins focused on payments, not investments. But critics argue it creates a system where private companies profit from public debt, funded by users who see none of the return. The debate boils down to a fundamental question: who gets to control the future of money? Will it be governments, private corporations, or some new hybrid? The stablecoin bills being advanced in the US seem to offer a clear answer: a public-private partnership where private companies build the rails, but the rails lead directly back to the US Treasury. The original Bretton Woods Agreement was a deliberate, top-down act of financial statecraft. Its potential successor, this new digital dollar standard, is emerging differently. It's a bottom-up revolution, driven by user demand, but subtly guided by legislation that channels that revolution toward a specific outcome. Whether this is a master plan or a series of convenient coincidences, the effect could be the same. A new financial architecture is being locked into place. It's a system that doesn't fight the rise of digital currency, but co-opts it. It doesn't replace the dollar, but reinvents it. 80 years ago, a monetary reset secured America's place in the world. Today, another reset is underway. It's quieter, more complex, and happening in plain sight. And it begs the question, as the world moves its money onto the blockchain, is it breaking free from the old system, or just logging into a more sophisticated version of it?